Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
The Morning Drive. Dubai's retail property market off to a flying start in 2026. Sales values jumping 171% to 2.1 billion dirhams. And that's driven by a surge in off-plan deals. At the same time, rents continuing to climb, even as more businesses choose to renew leases instead of relocating. So joining us this morning, Ali Siddiqui is Research Manager at Cavendish Maxwell Property Consultancy to look at the things driving the trends, what they mean for investors and retailers and the wider economy. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Back again. It's just a couple of weeks since we last saw you. Good to have you back in the studio. The headline number is huge, 171% jump in sales values, which is pretty strong investor appetite, despite a tougher than expected economic environment that we're facing, I guess. How much of this is driven by actual market heat, if you like, and how much of it is fueled specifically by the surge in off-plan retail projects?
So from an investor's point of view, what we are seeing at the moment is that they're taking a long-term view in the market. Now, the retail sector historically has been supported by a couple of factors. You have your strong population growth. You have seen population rise by 5.7% over the last couple of years. At the same time, international arrivals have reached record high as well. And we also have business expansion. So the off-plan segment is something which is an anticipated delivery over the next couple of years, right? Investors understand that, okay, the current situation that we are in at the moment is not going to last long, right? We don't know when it's going to end, but it's definitely not going to last long. Given that, and given the historical performance that the retail sector has shown, it's something in which they thought that, fine, let's invest into it, because eventually, like two, 3 years down the line, your population growth is expected to increase again. International tourism is going to come again, which is going to support the retail sector as an overall.
Okay, so we're seeing off-plan sales account for what, 60% of that total value. Is that just a healthy sign of long-term belief in Dubai, or is there a little bit of investors chasing attractive payment plans that maybe developers are offering right now?
It's a combination of both of them, actually. So, like I said, historically, the retail sector has performed really well.
Yeah.
It is expected to perform again once the situation changes. At the same time, we have developers offering flexible payment plans. Now, you have a strong performance within the ready segment as well. It's not like the ready segment is not performing well. The offline sector becomes more attractive because of your payment plans, the entry points, because you don't have to put in a down payment within the offline segment. So it's a combination of both factors. So it's a long-term approach as well as the flexibility provided by developers.
Okay, and that belief
Exactly.
in the Dubai story. Sales are soaring. New leasing contracts, however, have dropped by, a third? So renewals dominating just over 80% of the market. Business is playing it safe because things have been uncertain and continue to be that way, or is making expansion, is it harder because of the rising cost of that prime retail space?
No, it's more to do with the uncertainty that we have in the market at the moment. As you mentioned, majority of the rental contracts that we have at the moment are renewal. Now, your new contracts were already falling even before the conflict had started, right? Yeah. Now, what that tells us that the availability of good locations. Now, for retail, you need to have a location which has a good footfall. It has a good neighborhood around you where you have a lot of people coming in. Now, retailers that were planning to do an expansion, all the financial modelings, all the planning that they had done was prior to the conflict had started, right? So the demand or the demand analysis or the expected returns that they were going to expect out of those expansion were done pre-conflict. Now they have to run those numbers again, which takes time. Right, so that's the reason you're seeing a fall in new contracts. Now, your renewal contracts are down as well, but it's not like it's fallen off the roof. Now, within the first 5 months, your renewal contracts are down by 2%, which isn't that much. Your new contracts is the one which has actually taken the hit. Why? Because expansion has slowed down. So it's more of a wait-and-see approach with a combination of remodeling your finances to see if it's the right time to move into a different space.
How long does it take to run the numbers again? You said there, that people have had to basically re-examine and replan, I suppose. How long does it take to rerun those numbers?
You would have to run your feasibility studies again, so it'll probably take 2 or 3 months. And basis that, you'll have to take your decisions again. Because again, if you were expecting an X amount of demand in the market prior to the conflict, the demand isn't necessarily going to be there. Why? Because the international tourism isn't coming in anytime soon. Fine, we have Emirates and Etihad that have activated insurance related to any conflict-related injuries or any delays for that matter, which is a good sign. At the same time, the government has also brought in stimulus packages to basically help support the hospitality and the retail sector. So the government is doing as much as they can. But again, at the moment, what is important is to see how and when international tourism comes back, what the population growth is expected to be like, how is spending pattern going to evolve over the next couple of months.
Yeah, these predictions are so hard to make as well because, historically, the last 4 months, it's uncertainty has ruled.
True.
And we're coming into summer now. We have this kind of wait and see approach, sitting on our hands. What does all of this in the report, and this is asking you to gaze a little bit into the crystal ball again, but I'm interested, what does this tell you about business confidence?
So business confidence, so the best way to gauge business confidence is to look at rental contracts, right? Now, if business confidence was down, you would see your rental contracts, at least your renewal rental contracts, falling at a higher pace.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it's down by 2% compared to the same period last in the first 5 months. So that basically includes 3 months of conflict period. Majority of the retailers that came into 2026 came in from a strong position in 2025. So they have the financial backing, at least to survive for the next couple of months. It's the same within the hospitality sector as well. Majority of these retailers or hoteliers came into 2026 with a strong financial performance in 2025. So they are basically... What they're basically trying to do at the moment is to see how the situation is evolving. Now, if you were to, let's say, go to a mall at the moment or even visit any neighborhood, the chances of you finding a retail outlet that has closed in the last couple of months would be really rare. Now, you might find certain retailers that might have closed down, but again, we don't know what those situations were, right? We don't know how the financials were in the first place.
Okay. Rents are up, what? Just over 6% on average, 6.4%, I think it is. But that's not everything. It's not the whole story. You've seen Business Bay, downtown, double-digit hikes. Others are flat, exactly. Is the retail map of Dubai being redrawn to some extent in terms of the locations that are really worth that additional kind of layer of premium?
Exactly. So high footfall is the most important thing for retailers. Now, if you see the areas or the areas that you've mentioned right now, most of these areas are high density areas. Business Bay, JVC, and downtown. They have a lot of people staying in those areas. Even within, let's say, the off-plan segment, majority of the sales transactions that are happening are in communities which are expected to have a high density, such as Dubai South. JVC is another area. We also have Marjan. So all these communities are basically master communities where the population is expected to grow. Right. So from a retailer's point of view, you need your domestic demand, you need your international demand. So you need to be in an area where either you have your domestic demand playing in, who would basically support your sales, or you have international tourists coming in and supporting your demand.
Where are the winners at the moment? I mean, I mentioned Business Bay, downtown, JVC, obviously. What else? Who else is doing really well? Which other areas?
Apart from that, in terms of sales, you have your Dubai South performing really well. You have Marjan. You have Dubai Marina. So you're just seeing a lot of sales transactions over there happening. Within rentals, it's again your prime locations such as Business Bay, downtown.
Yeah.
It's those ones which have performed really well.
Yeah, they always hold up, don't they? Price gains today, are they driven by... my sense is that they're driven by genuine demand.
True.
There doesn't seem to be to me, but I am no expert, I defer to you on this, but it doesn't seem to be any overheating.
Not at the moment. See, within the rental space, you need to, from a landlord's point of view, you need to rent out those units, right? It's important for you to basically generate your income through the tenants that you have.
Yeah.
So if there was speculative activity in the market, you would have seen it within the sales market. But the sales market is so small already, right? So the speculation at the moment is a bit too difficult. The other factor, what we need to understand is that the demand was really strong in 2025, right? Fine, I understand that Q1 and probably towards the end of Q1 and a bit of Q2, the market has slowed down, which is expected given that the situation we are in. So the market overheating at the moment doesn't seem likely. What you might see within the rental segment is that the rate of growth that we had seen previously, you wouldn't see that. I've looked at rental contracts for June specifically. We are seeing retailers or basically landlords still increasing rents. So that basically indicates that the market is performing really well. You don't want to be in a situation where, let's say, you have a really good location, which has a really good footfall, which has a lot of domestic demand. You move from that location. You basically lose that spot and you move into a location where you have to start from scratch, right? So that's the reason your landlords are still increasing their rates. Now, if you remember during COVID, what had happened was that a lot of these mall operators had actually frozen rent, right? You had your Mercato, you had Emars, all of those had frozen rent during COVID. That has not happened now. What has happened instead is that organizations or basically your government entities such as the IFC bringing in reliefs for retailers. So the Dubai government bringing in stimulus to support the market. So we are not in a situation where the market is so stressed that landlords need to basically reduce their rent or basically offer them like rental waivers.
Okay. The data suggests that the community-led retail's been resilient, proving more resilient, I guess. Appears to be outperforming the tourism-linked destinations. Is that a shift in the Dubai model from this reliance on, visitors' foot traffic, if you like, to a more kind of localized, neighborhood-based retail economy? The success of the strip malls that we're starting to see everywhere.
Again, from a landlord's point of view, it depends. Now, your domestic-led retail outlets.
Too many "it depends" questions this morning.
Exactly. So, your domestic-led retail outlets are a safer investment, right? Sure. Because you have your domestic demand playing in the people living within those communities. On the other hand, your tourist-led retail outlets, they tend to be more profitable because your tourists have more spending power, right? So domestic demand is already in play, right? And those have been there in the market since the beginning. That's the reason you see a lot of those master communities have a really strong retail footprint, right? So it's not something that we're seeing a shift. It is already there. It's just that it's a much more safer option for investors than tourist-led.
It's more of a sweet spot, isn't it, I suppose? Yeah, okay. It's not just storefronts. Your latest analysis covers warehousing as well, and as a sector, double-digit rental growth as well. What's behind this, the strength in logistics real estate?
So warehouses and logistics, for that matter, is one of the strongest performing commercial assets over the last couple of years. You've seen really strong growth happening. And it's still evident within the rental contracts as well, interestingly. So again, similar to the numbers that we ran for retail, we ran the same numbers for warehouses as well. Interestingly, your renewal contracts are up compared to the last year in the first 5 months. Again, your new contracts are down, but that is expected, again, given the situation. Now, Dubai has been a regional hub for distribution, for manufacturing, so that has actually helped a lot. And with the rise of e-commerce as well, you need those warehouses to basically distribute your goods and services.
Okay. For a retailer at the moment, sitting on a renewal, Ali, is it a smart strategy to stay put, or are you risking missing out on perhaps slightly better design community spaces that might be coming onto the market later in the year?
It all depends on who your target audience is at the end of the day. If you are in a location which has proven financials, in which you have proven sales records, right? It wouldn't be a smart decision to move unless the rents have gone up so much that it's no longer feasible for you to stay over there.
Okay. Halfway through the year, summer is upon us. Schools are about to break up. Given the current geopolitical backdrop, the ceasefire is being worked on, we believe. Do you expect this gap between high sales and cautious leasing to widen? Or are we going to see a correction in the second half of 2026. To what extent might we see a correction?
Majority of the news in the market at the moment is that the market is expected to bounce back in Q4. Why? Because your tourism is expected to come back in during Q4. A lot of these countries, such as UK, for example, have removed the GCC countries from the list in which they had said that basically it's a risk to travel within those countries, right? Similarly, airlines have started offering insurance as well. So your domestic demand, like I said, is already there. During the summer period, fine, people travel to their home country. That's when the demand automatically slows down. But that's historically it happens.
Sure.
So the international part is expected to come in by Q4. But again, it all depends on how the situation evolves. Like I said, a lot of depends. All those situations.
It's a morning of it depends questions and answers, isn't it? Yeah. So regional uncertainty is here at the moment. It's very much in focus. We expect a resolution. Let's assume that things do improve, and it looks like that's going to happen. How resilient, if you could put into words, this is the word of the moment, is Dubai's commercial property market set to be for the rest of the year?
Okay, so we need to look at it from a point of view in which sector we're looking for within commercial. Now, warehouses, for example, we have already seen a shortage of supply in that specific sector.
Right.
That's the reason we are seeing an increase in renewal contracts even at this moment. Now, the rate at which we have seen prices grow, let it be for offices, retails, warehouses, I don't anticipate the same rate to continue. Why? Because there would be a certain pushback from tenants, which is expected given the current situation, because they would basically see an impact on their sales, right? So the pushback is expected to come in. So the rate of growth is not going to be the same as 2025, and that is expected given the situation that we are in currently.
Okay. If you're an investor looking at retail as an asset class, as part of your portfolio, you're not a shop owner, for example, what's the metric that you should be watching? Because you don't want to buy into hype, do you?
Exactly. So if you are an investor first, you need to rerun your numbers again, do the basic.
Rerun and then rerun again.
Exactly.
I guess, yeah.
And you also need to look at the absorption rate, how the absorption rate is like for new retail supply that's coming into the market. What I mean is that, let's say if there are a couple of buildings that have been delivered in JVC, and those buildings have a retail, buildings have a retail outlet.
Yeah.
How soon were they able to rent those units out, and what type of tenants they're getting? That would basically help you understand, okay, fine, is there demand in the market at the moment, and what type of retailers or what type of retailers are actually being demanded by the people living in those areas.
Okay, couple of final questions. We do have time. If you had to distill the state of Dubai's retail sector into a piece of advice for a business owner listening today, which of these options would it be? Would it be buy? Would it be renew? Would it be wait?
Renew, definitely. If you have proven record over there, it's always better to renew, because you don't want to be in a situation where you move into a place which could be cheaper, but then you would be struggling to get those footfall back again.
It's a positive message.
It is. The market, see, at the moment, what everyone is saying that fine, your rental contracts are going down, but you need to understand the intensity and the situation that we are in currently. Like I said, it's down by 2%. Warehouses up by 12%, which are still positive signs. Fine, people say that, oh, it's a negative, but you need to understand that the negative could be 10%, it could be 15% as well. We have already within 3 months period from the conflict, from the point that the conflict had started, and a 2% decline is not that bad.
No, it's a surprise actually. Just 2%. To be fair, any final thoughts? What investors, what business owners should be watching most closely, maybe over the next few quarters?
How soon international tourism comes back, the situation, how it evolves from a regional point of view, with regards to the Strait of Hormuz. Will it have an impact on how soon we can basically get the ships back into Dubai ports? Because there's a certain limit in which you can use your airlines, because it's definitely going to have an impact on your costing at the end of the day, because getting a shipment through air is far more expensive than getting it through a ship, right? Sure. So you need to look at those signs, how soon international visitors come back, and the state of and the situation in the regional market at the moment.
Okay, so location and flexibility. Yeah, okay. Two currencies that matter at the moment. Ali Siddiqui is Research Manager at the property consultancy Cavendish Maxwell. It's been good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming in. If you enjoyed this discussion on Mira Business FM, please share it and leave us a comment as well.
Mira Business FM, the sound of success. Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
So, real estate now on the morning drive, real estate news headlines this week, and then we're going to talk AI and tech. Is artificial intelligence and technology replacing the real estate agent? And we have a real estate agent here to discuss that very topic. With me, as ever, Wednesday morning, Mario Volpe is here. Nice to see you.
Morning, Tim.
A senior manager with Eva Real Estate. Mario is one of the voices you can hear regularly on the Dubai Property Podcast, and you can read him too in the National Weekly. See?
You've been practicing that,
I know.
haven't you?
I was in front of the mirror yesterday with a hairbrush doing that. Nice to see you. Look, there's a lot happened. I wanted to start today, actually, with Etihad Rail because the official launch has now happened, of course. Here we are, 1st of July, and the trains are off. I'm kind of excited about this because, like you, you and me, we grew up with train travel and hopping on the metro trains of
pre-electricity.
Yeah, exactly. Remember those steam trains when they used to send children up chimneys? Yeah, those were the days. But the network is now operational between Abu Dhabi and Fujairah. So we've got expansion into Dubai, the Northern Emirates, scheduled later this year into 2027. But I think it's exciting times. And there is obviously a link to real estate, the impact on real estate of enhanced travel and interconnectivity is there. But are you hopping on board, as they say?
I don't plan to, but I think I will do. I mean, here I am. I've been 18 years and I've never been to Global Village. So I know. I'm
they should revoke your visa.
Segueing into
That's so wrong.
So I'm just trying to say, will I have a go? Of course I will. Yeah. But not necessarily anytime soon.
Right. So what we've got, I'll just run through it because I want to talk about the real estate implications of this, and it's not just implications for Dubai or Abu Dhabi; it's for Fujairah. It's there's quite a lot to talk about. So we've got a phased timeline to connect the major kind of urban and industrial centres. June the 30th, passenger services Abu Dhabi, all the way to Fujairah. So Mohammed bin Zayed City Station, the main terminus, if you like, to Al Hilal City, which is Fujairah Station, so you can get all the way across the Emirates. Dubai Station, Jumeirah Golf Estates, Dade, which is Sharjah, scheduled, I think it's end of September. End of December, Al Dhafra region, so that's Sila and Dana, Mirfa, Medina Zayed, Liwa, and Al Fayed, set to open at the end of the year. And then March the 30th, the network will reach completion, and that's University City Station in Sharjah. That's how it's going to unfold.
I think it will help, obviously, the commuting side between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and I think that has got to improve the timing and the relaxation between the two areas.
Yeah.
Because driving to Abu Dhabi or perhaps back from Abu Dhabi to Dubai can be a little bit precarious at times, especially after a long day at work for those that actually work in Abu Dhabi and live in Dubai. So this is amazing news. Whether I'm going to use it or not or try it is immaterial. I mean, the fact that we've never had rails. Then it started off obviously with the metro, then the tram. So naturally, to have a proper inter-emirate system is really, really good news. It's great for the Emirates. It's great for hospitality. And it's great for the residents, whether you're doing it from a leisure point of view or obviously for business. But I have a question for you. So I heard on the radio that they were trying to find passenger number 1. Do you know about that? Do you know who was the first person to sit in seat 1, carriage 1 on that journey the other day?
That's a good point. I read a story about passenger number 1, Emirati guy. It was a great quote. It was almost one small step for man sort of quote. I can't even remember it now. It was that good.
But he was it was somebody that was going to be nominated. It wasn't, it wasn't, for example, Sheikh Mohammed, because obviously he'd been on the train anyway, on the testing service parts of the train. But the actual first journey, it was like a lottery ticket to sort of get that that seat.
Do you know?
No, I don't. That's why I'm asking.
Oh no, he's in the papers. He's now famous. His quote, I'll find his quote. It was really sweet actually, but it's a bit of a privilege, isn't it? Be the first.
I'm wondering whether a bit like all the babies born on the 9th of September 2009, when the actual metro line opened up, who were given free travel for the rest of their lives on the metro. I wonder whether this chap perhaps will have that golden ticket as well. Who knows?
Oh, there's a bonus, I guess. They're great trains as well, by the way. 200 kilometers an hour, 400 passengers, 57 minutes Abu Dhabi to Dubai.
Do you know what I read?
With high-speed plans, could be 30 minutes.
Well, I was going to say, I read that and I thought, that's still an hour. If with the way some people drive, you can do that in the car.
But you don't have to play Dodgers,
No,
do you?
I know. And that's what I actually thought. I thought, an hour. Okay, you're in luxury. I think there's economy, family, and first. I think are the
That's right.
are the classes with infotainment and free Wi-Fi, as you would expect. So I'm sure the trains are going to be really luxurious. But then I started to think, an hour. Well, I suppose you can just have a snooze. It means you can really relax.
Snooze, you can work, have a coffee.
But listen, I'm not trying to compare the two train systems, but having been to Japan 2 years ago and actually ridden on the bullet train,
Right.
that's another experience, and that goes, I think, over 300 plus kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
This one at 200 kind of feels like it's just having a jog rather than a full out. But as you say, that there will be parts of it, I suppose, where they can speed it up. And actually, ironically, that the same is true in the bullet train. It's not like from start to finish at 300 plus miles. There's that build up and then it goes really fast and it sort of slows down again. So I'm sure that it'll have the same sort of concept.
What was the bullet train like when it accelerates to that speed?
Because it's done so gradually. You don't necessarily. It's not like an
There's no
acceleration
G-force.
where you pull your neck back. No. And they certainly don't have a plaque on the wall like Concorde, Mach 2. It's twice the speed of sound. No, it's a beautiful train. You pay more for sitting on a specific side if you're going from Tokyo to Osaka.
Right.
On the right, as I recall, because on that side, you've got Mount Fuji. So it's good for taking pictures.
Right.
So you do pay a little bit more on.
Yeah, but if you
on
get
that
300
side.
kiomers an hour, how good are the pictures going to be? It's just a blur.
No. I mean, it's fast, but the mountain is huge, Tim. I mean, it does appear to stay still for a little bit. Or maybe that's the bit where they slow it down. I don't know, but it's gradual. So I would imagine this would be the same.
Well, it could be 30 minutes Dubai to Abu Dhabi. So,
See, that would
which
be great.
a
Half
huge
an hour
bonus.
is amazing, especially for business. Anybody going for a meeting. And of course, from a commuting point of view,
Exactly.
I think it would. I've always said Abu Dhabi is a great place to at the time when I first came here, great place to work. Maybe not so much to live. That's shifting, and obviously we'll talk about Abu Dhabi later on as well. That's shifting. So people tended to perhaps want to work in Abu Dhabi but live in Dubai, especially from at the weekend point of view, maybe. As I say, that balance is readdressing itself. However, it's just going to make it easier for people perhaps to work in a different emirate, not just Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Obviously now you're talking about other emirates, and of course Sharjah is going to come into play later on next year as well. So interesting that they haven't mentioned Ras Al Khaimah.
Well, not yet.
I mean, is there a station there? I'm not sure.
No.
But I definitely know from a real estate point of view, areas like Jumeirah Golf Estates, which is going to have a bit of a hub.
Yes.
Not just for Etihad Rail, but obviously the linking system into the wider metro. So property prices definitely will rise there.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, what kind of impact does it have? Because we've seen values increase around close to metro stations. Some analysts put it somewhere between 10 and 20%, depending on the area, obviously. But what kind of impact? What do you expect to happen?
I think it's different than a metro because a metro, you've got lots of stations. It's more intercity. This is a railway system that takes you from emirate to emirate. So obviously the number of stations are going to be far less. But it will have an impact because it just makes life easier. Like we've just said, it could mean that somebody will now decide perhaps to work in one emirate and live in another. Obviously, we see that kind of migration pretty much every day from Sharjah to Dubai when it comes to cheaper living options or more economic value living in Sharjah than in Dubai. But of course, the downside is that traffic. I mean, maybe not so much now, I don't know, with the road infrastructure, they've improved everything. But I mean, I still hear of people being on the road for 2 hours a day,
It's-
or 2 hours each way, should I say? So
it's busy.
It's a lot. So you can now imagine that when Sharjah is also plugged into the system, I know the next stop would then be Jumeirah Golf Estates. It may not be anywhere near where the individual from Sharjah needs to be, but I don't know. There could be at that point is where you then plug into the metro system.
Yeah, well, you plug into existing RTA kind of transport links, whether it's, buses or taxis or whatever it is. So, I mean, there are going to be, there's a system in place. It's also just the first stage as well.
Exactly.
The other side of
and it will develop and it will become more seamless. And of course, many people will use it for those, as I say, for business or pleasure.
Here's a market forecast, and I read this in a couple of different places online. Whether this is true or not, I don't know, but you could see the figures for yourself. Experts suggest that residential properties near major stations could see long-term appreciation of between 15 and 25% within the first few years of full operation.
I mean, that falls into broadly what the metro has done anyway. It's added maybe an extra 5%. I think it's possible. Any infrastructure is going to increase the value because it's about convenience. And if you live somewhere where everything is on your doorstep, everything that you possibly need, or within a short commute, then of course it's supply and demand, isn't it? People are going to want to live there, and prices will obviously have to go up.
It's just that thing of that we've never had here. It's just the idea of inter-emirate travel that you don't have to guide yourself through. You can literally hop on. The experience of train travel. Not only is it a new thing, but it's a great thing.
And a quality one at that. Obviously, you can imagine it's going to be, sort of 5, 6, 7 star sort of quality. And strict rules, I would imagine. A bit like the metro, you can't bring certain items in. There'll be etiquette. I'm sure there'll be quiet carriages like there are in some countries. So the use of mobile phone is restricted literally to just silent tapping rather than, hello, I'm on the mobile, like that. Trigger happy TV, if you might remember it.
I remember that well. I was on a train in London. This would be in the 90s, and it was when hands-free was not really a thing. And you remember the one earpiece, the cable? I couldn't see the cable.
Oh, so you thought you had a nutter on the train? And I was sat near a guy,
and a guy was just shouting into nowhere. And I was getting, it's like in London on the trains. You're like, I'm next to a lunatic. What am I going to do? It was late at night. No, I did not like that.
It's not just, but at least the cable's there. Now you have these little tiny things, and you see people just talking to themselves on the street when actually they're having a conversation.
Well, we're all mad these days.
Well, a little
bit,
technology.
So that's the train, but there will be an effect. As to what it will be, we don't know. But
it'll be a positive effect. That's what you can definitely say. And in time, that will then be reflected in sort of perhaps the percentages that you mentioned.
Yeah. Let's talk about, let's move on to the next topic, actually. UAE buyer-seller price gap narrows as house hunters opt to rent for now. This is a story from Khaleej Times. It was the day before yesterday, and it's the share of UAE home buyers expecting prices to fall eased to 63% in May, so down from a peak of more than 70% immediately after the conflict, the onset of the conflict. So it's the second consecutive monthly decline, even as sellers held their asking prices close to pre-conflict levels. I'm just wondering what you think about
But that's
those
sentiment, isn't
numbers.
it? They're talking
That's
about
exactly
sentiment.
What it is.
Yeah. Well, you're saying that buyers are easing their sort of offering.
It's slight.
I'm not seeing that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And in fact, to the detriment of the agents, because whilst deals are being done in the wider context, we're losing out on a lot of deals, purely and simply that you have sellers dropping to a certain level, and they are, by the way. I'm not saying, this report's saying that sellers are broadly sticking to their asking prices. Not in the main, there are still very many deals out there. These distressed deals that people want were never really out there. You might have found one in a million, but generally speaking, no. Sellers are, in the main, being reasonable. The ones that are not, we are suggesting that perhaps they either try another agent or they wait, because there's no point spending money advertising something that's overpriced, because no one's going to even want to go and see it.
Right.
But buyers are, or my experience or our experience is that buyers, they reach a certain level and then that's it. It's a take it or leave it. And it's just a bridge too far for some of these owners to even accept that. And so deals are fizzling out, to be honest with you.
Really?
I can give you many examples where, we are really, really close, because often these sellers are already making a loss. Okay. I guess it depends what they're selling, of course, but the ones that I'm referring to are perhaps, sort of off-plan resales where either they don't want to or they don't have the money to pay the next installment. And so to sell it quicker, they are in actual fact selling at less than what they paid for. So already in their mind, that sentiment is, I'm already taking a hit here. Yeah. The developer, if there's a payment plan to continue, that has to continue. And all the money that the current seller has paid into that, is kind of lost. Yeah. And depending on the numbers will determine exactly how much he gets at transfer, if anything, and then the buyer just takes over the developer's payment plan. But there's this one chap who's trying to sell a studio and 2 one-beds, and I think his total OP or something was something like 3.3 million, and he was willing to sell it at $1 million less. So it became a little bit like sort of buy these 2 one-bedroom apartments and get a free studio. Yeah. And he said, look, the absolute lowest I can go is 2.3, and we got an offer of 2 million, and then that buyer went up 2.1, and then he's gone up to 2.15, and now he's at 2.2. But the owner said, look, I can't drop any more. Yeah. The fact is he can drop more. He's already making a loss. And I know it sounds callous, but like, what's another 50 grand or 100 grand when you've already lost that kind of money? But you see, everybody has a limit. And that's the bit I'm trying to say here. But the buyer just either can't see that it's a really good deal in today's market, or he's just being pig-headed. Just trying it on. And so now, we're at 2.2. He's at 2.3. We thought that maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle and just get another 50 grand from one and get him to drop the other 50 grand. And we're at a stalemate. So I'll find out today when I go back to the office exactly where we're at. I did say to the agent to speak to speak to both parties and ask them if they've ever heard of the expression win-win. And of course they're going to say yes. He said, well, let's move to lose-lose.
Your favourite expression.
My favourite expression, because lose-lose gets you to win-win, but both parties have to lose something. So right now we're at 2.2 from the buyer. So for him to lose, he has to pay more money. Yep. The seller's at 2.3. For him to win, he has to lose more money. So I want to see if that strategy worked when I get to the office earlier on. But often what people also do is they ghost you. You're in the middle of negotiations and then people just stop replying. And that's probably the biggest bugbear of mine and a lot of agents, is that people just all of a sudden, I don't know whether they use it as a tactical or something has happened or maybe they're busy at work, I don't know. But if you're in the middle of negotiations and you then stop talking for like a few days, to me that's just downright rude. I mean, just look, I know we're in this, look, leave me alone for 24 hours, 48 hours. I have to think, I have to this, I'm busy at work, I've got the mother-in-law in, whatever it is, just communicate. But this business that they just completely extricate, extricate, is that the right word? I don't know, cut you off.
Excommunicate
you, it's really bad.
You can see why people do it, because it means you have to face money and you have to say no to somebody and you have to say no to somebody financially, and a lot of people will duck that.
But you're in negotiation, Tim. So
no, I know.
You either do it or you don't do it. So
I'm not saying it's right, but I can see why people do it. I mean, I would have been, I am Mr. Bury your head in the sand and don't take any notice, but I don't do that now. Somebody said, so what's the answer? sorry, can't do it. Because I just think, no, life's too short now. But then you learn that, don't you, as I suppose you get older. But no, I'm with you. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, I don't want to come down too firmly on the side of the real estate agent as though I'm trying to suck up to you, Mario. But
Tim.
for the purposes of this interview, but I do see your point. Talking to you as regularly as I do, and we talk to real estate guys and girls very often on this program. Short thrift, you get a great deal. I think you're not treated particularly well because of the actions of the bad apples, obviously. But an answer would be nice.
So going back to this article, I think
here we go.
No, it's just I've used that example. I'm not seeing buyers going, oh, all right, then I'll pay your asking price, which is what I'm trying to say.
It's just not happening, no.
Not through our doors.
No.
I mean, deals are still being done. Like I say, you've got sellers who unfortunately are in some cases making a loss.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just that how much more of a loss do I have to make? Because the other thing as well, which is unfortunately for them it's a kick in the teeth, is that after all this negotiation, where the seller feels as though he's been pulled left, right, and centre, and he's being ripped apart by the system and by the market, etc., or this terrible buyer who doesn't want to pay his price. Then the agent reminds him, well, by the way, don't forget, you've got to pay me 2% for the effort. And he goes, you what? Take it from the buyer. No, there's another agent involved. I can't work for free. I've got to come to you. So unfortunately, that also is something that has to happen. Sorry, I'm chuckling because it's just so bad, and yet it is what it is.
Yeah.
The poor chap's made a loss because I always say timing is everything in business, especially in real estate. When to get in, when to get out, what's your exit strategy.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just cannot. Well, obviously you cannot time in it. It is what it is. Yeah. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, and the poor boys and girls that invested with gusto and they went into this perhaps for all the right reasons are left sort of with not a lot. But that's why we always say, buyer beware, seller beware. It isn't always rosy in the garden. Sometimes there can be a few thorns, but in the main, the real estate market, when I look over the years, people have made a heck of a lot of money, and a few unfortunately have lost.
Yeah, well, that's always going to be the way, isn't it? I mean, so there's been no big crash, and there is no big crash coming. I mean, it seems as though buyers are a little bit more realistic about prices.
I think we can convince them the value, I think, and that's the way to really look at things. Why is that person buying? And that's a question that often agents overlook. When you qualify someone, you really have got to dig deep and understand what's the purpose of the actual, purchase. Yeah. And they say, oh, it's an investment. Okay, fine. Everything is an investment. Even as a forever home, it's still an investment. But you really, the agent should really be digging deep to understand the psyche of the buyer, to then determine whether there are any pitfalls along the way. You can't always, nobody knew what was going to happen on the 28th of February, or at least it came as a bit of a shock to most of us. So you can't really time those. You can look at conspiracy theories, you can look at financial planning, you can look at data and make an educated guess. But ultimately, it's always that we'll have to wait and see. You can look at history to sort of gauge. But even then, that's not necessarily as accurate as you think it is. And people just, often it's just guesswork.
Yeah. Do you think, final question on this, it's an interesting article, this. Do you think that the gap between what buyers want to pay and what sellers want to get is narrowing, right? Do you think we're moving towards a healthier market?
I think this conflict definitely made the market, perhaps, I'm not even sure healthier is the right word, but we'll use it in the context of this. So on that respect, something needed to happen because you cannot have a rampant market that just keeps going up and up and up.
There's a re-stabilization or a reworking, not really a correction.
That recalibration, exactly, that recalibration was definitely needed across the whole sector, not just in terms of the real estate itself, where prices, availability wasn't there, prices were going up, people were just let down left, right, and centre, queuing up for what? And in the end, either the agent had the arrangement with the developer or not, the inventory was there or not. The sort of boys' club brigade that just the multi buyer, the bulk buyer would be able to take everything off. All of that has changed, and I'm glad it has. Because now people, they need more time, they're taking more time, they're asking better questions. So whether it's because that the gap between asking price and agreeing price is narrowing, I still don't think that's the case. Okay. I think what's happening is that people are realizing from both ends of the spectrum, if we took at the buyer, that the value of that property and why I'm buying it in the long run is worth maybe paying that extra 50,000, where today I don't really want to because we're in a crisis scenario. I'm paraphrasing, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
Or, the seller saying, well, look, I've made a loss. It's unfortunate. I've got a buyer here. I can now get out of this deal, but I got to lose another 50,000 dirhams. It's a lot of money. But in the scheme of things, depending on the, whatever the price is, maybe it's something that I'll just have to swallow, and ask yourself, how is it going to make me feel, in a few weeks' time when I'm out of this deal? Yes, it's still going to hurt that this has cost me X, Y, Z thousands of dirhams. You can look for someone to blame. Maybe it was that bad estate agent who gave me bad advice and I should never listen to him again or whatever. Or maybe it's just circumstances. Absolutely. People, well, I can only speak for myself. We don't genuinely go out to mislead people. We give facts and information of what we have today. That may change because laws and all sorts of legislation changes as we go along. Yesterday, I had a conversation with someone actually who he's become a friend. He's actually listens to the show, so maybe he will listen to this. I'm seeing him tonight to watch the England game.
Oh, okay.
And he bought an investment through one of the managers of a previous company that I worked in. Great guy, this manager, gives a really, really good guy. But it would appear today that the client feels misled because he bought that property because he was told that on handover he could remortgage, he could finance it to pay for the rest of the I think it's 50-50 payment plan.
Okay.
But a mortgage broker yesterday told him categorically, because he's a non-resident, he will not be able to get a mortgage in Ras Al Khaimah. And so now he feels hard done by that. He only bought that because he thought he could refinance it. And now he's staring down the barrel thinking, I've got to find this money, which today I don't have. But I will reiterate to him, despite the fact that the other manager said, no, we can do it. And he was going off to get an email to explain that it can be done. So you've got two opposing things there. But what I'm going to explain to him tonight is that whilst today it might seem a bit bleak, the Wynn Hotel hasn't opened up yet. The casino isn't there. I'm going to virtually guarantee you that in 2 years' time, when the handover happens, banks will be falling over themselves to lend money on what is and will be a success rate. So that's how things happen so quickly. And actually, I think he was a bit disappointed on something else that I was involved in selling, but he went to see it yesterday, and I think he was quite pleased on how that building is coming. So time changes is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And so not necessarily to worry, but I'm sure he'll be listening to this in a few days' time. But I'll tell him that I spoke about him.
Well, let's just hope you get a win tonight. Sorry, we get a win tonight because it is also my country. But there you are.
I mean, Democratic Republic of Congo. I made a bit of a joke. I shouldn't joke, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm going to say no hugging in the tunnel between the two in case of any infections of the Ebola virus.
Oh, you are a bad man.
I'm joking, obviously.
Of course you are. No, I mean, it could be an interesting game. We didn't come here to talk football. There's another story I wanted to bring up here because there is some. I feel there is a feeling in the air of positivity. We're looking at the bounce back of the country as we head towards the summer, as we hit Q4. Abu Dhabi property market rebounds. This is Khalij Times. It's just after we talked last week, actually. Abu Dhabi property market rebounds as buyers and tenants return. This is data from Beirut and Dubizzle. Covers January to June. Property views recovering to 95% of their 2026 baseline by week 14. Okay. So you're well into March there. Property impressions, and this is people looking online.
Yeah.
But the point is people are back looking, which I suppose is a pretty positive story.
No, definitely. I had that meeting with Beirut, and they went through the numbers for Dubai, and again they use this word baseline, which is pre-conflict kind of thing, and so to actually see how much activity has pretty much returned shows that the appetite is there.
Yeah.
Now, some of these people are looking for those distressed sales, obviously, and so the activity may not necessarily turn into actual leads and viewings, etc. But in the main, it does, and it will. And I know that there are some elements of the market that are quite hot in that respect. A lot of activity. So, am I surprised? A little bit, obviously.
Yeah.
Because we are driven very much, especially in off-plan, by the international market, whereas the local market, I'm not that surprised, because for those who've been here long enough, like myself, who've been through a lot of ups and downs in the property market, from financial to medical with COVID, and now obviously militarily, you say, well, you've seen it, been there, got the T-shirt, so I know what to expect. We are going to bounce back, and we do tend to bounce back quite quickly, and this is now showing, especially in the secondary market, that activity is there. So my advice, if possible, is that owners, if they're either renting or if they're selling, people are looking at your property. Now, if you're not selling or not renting because your agent isn't bringing the people, it's down to one thing: you're asking too much money. So change your price. And this is what I say every day to all my agents. Even in a rising market, the disparity between asking prices and selling prices is still very big. Perception, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
People try their luck. And I get it. I think everybody would. But once you've realized that perhaps you've overcooked it, turn the heat down, drop the price, and buyers will come along. And actually, that it's not, as they say, rocket science. People feel better if they see a lower price because they perceive the value still to be the same, as in what they're getting. But as they're getting it at a lower price, they think the value hasn't increased because they're paying less for it. So it's that dynamic. It's finding that sweet spot. So don't turn your mind down or close your mind to dropping the price, even in a rising market. Obviously, at the moment, we are still a little bit of confusion. So that would be my advice to sellers. If you're serious about selling, serious about renting, look, obviously everybody has a price, but look at the market. Look at the market through the eyes of a buyer, through the eyes of a tenant, and you might then just might do a deal.
Well, that's one of the things about now, isn't it? It's that there's an enforcement of a bit more realism, isn't there? At a time like this, when things are uncertain. Hence the recalibration, as you put it, I suppose. Another story, just very quickly, because I want to move on to the AI and tech part of our conversation today. I'm interested to know how you feel about artificial intelligence. Dubai's Nakheel releases 222 beachfront homes on Palm Jebel Ali. Initial phase launched October 2025. This is a big launch.
Palm Central, yeah. This isn't the first phase. They launched before. It sold out.
Yeah.
But it is a big launch because it's the apartments. I know there are townhouses there as well. But for the listeners and the context, so it's kind of in between the fronds.
Yep.
There is the sort of bit of land, the sort of U-shaped bit of land. So they're going to be building buildings, towers, whatever, looking down the front. So they're going to have sea views, and obviously beachfront.
Yeah.
And 1 bedrooms, 2 beds, 3 beds, 4 beds, 2 bed plus maids. The first phase sold out instantly, and this one was also really, really popular. Although they do still have, and this is the nature of the beast, I guess. Now, sort of 6 months ago, a year ago, this would sell out overnight. Now, they've sold a lot. Don't get me wrong, but they've got 1 or 2 left.
Right.
So it's that because the sentiment has changed. There's a little bit more time for buyers. There's a little bit more time for people to actually think, do you know what? That could be an amazing investment. I mean, let's also look at the map. The center of Dubai, if you like, is no longer the center. It's shifting towards.
It's shifted hugely.
Palm Jebel Ali.
Yeah, that's right.
And I know that sounds weird because you've got the border there. How can the center be right on the border when you've got obviously Dubai Islands, many, many kilometers on the other side? But when I say the center, I'm just saying that the sort of sentiment of where to invest is shifting towards, if you like, the confines of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And especially as, the Al Maktoum Airport will be coming much more into the fray as we get into the 2030s, as it were, as DXB sort of winds down and more projects come. Mira is going to have an amazing project on the Dubai-Abu Dhabi borders, which will probably be launched later this year. I mean, they're already launching plots, but what I'm saying is all of that area is going to be more concentrated.
Yeah.
And so Palm Jebel Ali just sort of sits nicely into that slot. And so very popular projects. When I went to the actual sort of launch of this, the place was rammed. This was the broker's launch, and I think I mentioned it before. I took a picture and I said, Dubai is dead, and I sent as a joke, and literally we were in there like sardines.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID would have had a field day if it was 5-6 years ago. It was literally back to what it was, but that's because the interest for Palm Jebel Ali is there. If Palm Jumeirah is the so-called 8th wonder of the world, well, this one is the big brother of that, being it's twice the size and offering much more sort of beachfront. And remember, everything that they sort of learned from building Palm Jumeirah, the mistakes or whatever, have been rectified.
That's the key.
Into Palm Jebel Ali.
Yeah,
so I mean, everything not only is bigger, I mean, the fronds are wider, therefore, there's going to be more movement in water, there's more breakwaters, there's, more roads in and out, so the
much
traffic.
better access.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I remember years and years ago, this must have been around 2018, 2019, I was working for a company that was part of Nikhil, and we were in a think tank meeting, and they were asking us as agents, if you could redo Palm Jumeirah, what would you do? And that was a really great question, because I would say, right, more visitor parking, bigger roads, more access in and out, and all the things that effectively have now been put into the master plan. They obviously listened. I mean, I'm sure they had their own ideas, but anybody who tries to get to West Beach, for example, of a Saturday evening will know that one U-turn under the bridge is a nightmare. Yeah. You spend half an hour just trying to get to the venue.
Yeah.
So, and actually, as the Chelsea group, we were looking at something on the Palm, and we said completely no, because we will spend too much time, trying to get to the venue. And so we turned it down.
Yeah, access is the real key, isn't it? So if you learn those lessons, you can create something really special.
Much better, of course.
I think.
And
Of course
and
you
who wouldn't want to to be have life on the beach? And that's what these apartments are. Palm Central, it's you're on the beach. Not only do you have the vistas, you are within a couple of minutes walk to the beach, and of course all the amenities that you would expect. So great project. Did really, really well. A handful of units are still available. But other than that, obviously it will sell out, but there'll be other phases as well, because let's say, there are many fronds, and many people want a piece of the action.
It's a huge project. I mean, it's got 7 interconnected islands, isn't it? So, and you know what it is? It's kind of a self-contained city.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
It's that big.
Well, I remember. Well, I'm not sure what the figures are for Palm Jebel Ali, but let me take you back to the third palm that they were considering, called Palm Dira, which is now Dubai Islands. It was scaled back.
Yeah.
When I look at the pictures of that was so condensed. They were talking about having 1 million inhabitants on Palm Dira alone. 1 million people living on Palm Dira. It was an ambitious project, to say the least, and of course so big. I think it was even 2 or 3 times the size of Palm Jebel Ali. So you can imagine each palm got bigger and bigger. So you went from the son to the father to the granddaddy, as it were. But yeah, that one never saw the light of day.
Palm Deborah, as it was affectionately
that.
known. Well, there was. I think this is urban
Palm
legend, but I remember the launch, and somebody said to me, "Did you see the press release for the launch? That it's Palm Deborah, not Palm Dira." I never saw that press release. I'm not sure if that's true.
I think
but
that was probably
affectionately
just,
known as that.
Anecdotally,
I like to think that the anecdotes like that are true. I was going to talk to you today about AI and technology replacing real estate.
Well, you can
agents.
quickly. We can.
We don't have time. I've
One
got a
word
lot to
answer.
ask you, but right. So AI tools, digital real estate platforms, traditional brokers, agents. Is there obsolescence coming in?
No,
here?
I think clearly AI is something that real estate companies are embracing.
Right.
The real question is AI going to replace the real estate agent? I don't believe so. Okay. And I'm going to say that quite strongly, because all it means is that the heavy lifting of data, the heavy lifting in terms of the agent trying to find, getting that knowledge, they don't necessarily need to have it. But what you do with that data is where the agent comes in. Data doesn't know whether a specific building, for example, is run well, or if there are any issues with residents. That comes with real life experiences, with perhaps even living there. Yeah. So the data is there, and it helps the agent to give these options, if you like, to the buyer. But I certainly don't think anytime soon it's actually going to replace it. People won't want it. People still want to deal with an individual. Now, you have to find the right one, of course.
Sure.
Yeah. But I don't know, that human contact, it's a bit like the last mile on a journey, still has to be done by a human. And so I embrace AI. As old as I am, I still actually embrace AI. I hate computers. I hate all these moving in, moving out forms you have to do when you move, and computer says no. But AI is a tool for sure that if you know how to use it, don't let it take over your life, but definitely use it. Let it not abuse you.
It's a tool. You're right. And there speaks a man who is moving house at the moment as well.
Trying to, but I'm trying to fight with these moving in, moving out forms.
A little bit of frustration going on there.
Hugely.
Yeah,
hugely. The app didn't work.
Didn't get that at all from you.
Computer says no. Oops, there's been a problem. Oops. What have I got to do? I just want to pick up my phone and chuck it at someone.
Yeah, that's true. We can always do that with the phone. That's a great thing. You can do great damage. Anyway, that's it. I'm not going to advocate for that.
So I'll let you know next week if I manage to move or if the security guard stopped me. That's because I haven't got the form.
That's the whole show next week. Bring the security guard with you.
Well,
there you go. There's an idea.
No, maybe not.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about AI and tech next week. So we'll talk about that, and we'll find there'll be other things to discuss. I'm sure. Mario Volpe is a real estate expert, a podcaster, a newspaper columnist, and by day you can find him prowling the corridors at Eva Real Estate.
Wow.
As a
prowling.
senior manager. Maybe not prowling, maybe...
Well, I found out the other day, actually, I called
Trundling.
myself senior manager. Apparently, I'm a director. I didn't even know. So, but
Nobody
it's
told
okay.
you?
It's okay. It doesn't matter. Mario is Mario. It's fine.
You're a director of Eva Real Estate. I'm changing that. I'm going with the big position.
Okay.
I look at you through new spectacles.
Okay.
They're not rose tinted. Lovely to see you. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Good
much,
to have you here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
This is The Morning Drive. It's Mira Business FM. A major shift hitting UAE businesses today, actually. It's the launch of the mandatory e-invoicing pilot. Full compliance is required by 2027. But what do these changes mean for your bottom line? Joining us is Niels van Hassel. He's head of tax for the Middle East at Adelshaw Goddard. So hopefully we can break down the new rules, look at the regional landscape, and any immediate next steps people need to make, I think. Niels, good to meet you. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Elliot. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you. So we've seen the headlines. This is an important milestone, I think, for businesses here. Why is the UAE making this leap to e-invoicing now? And I guess we need to frame this as it's a pretty big compliance shift as well, isn't it?
It is. And so the UAE actually announced that they were going to implement e-invoicing about 2 years ago. So if businesses have been following the news, they know that this is coming. But typically the story is that it's mostly the larger businesses that are ready for this, and they've done implementations in other countries, in Europe, in Saudi Arabia. But it's really the smaller businesses that are sort of at risk of being left out. So they really need to know what's coming at them. But I would say in terms of the global trends in e-invoicing is that it's really being rolled out now across different jurisdictions, also in the Middle East and definitely across Europe as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's standard, isn't it? So we're recording this on July the 1st, 2026. The pilot phase has kicked off, as I said. For businesses not currently in the selected group, if you like, is this a time for like wait and see, or are they already in the danger zone if they haven't started, internal assessments?
No, like you said, Elliot, so today is the start of the pilot phase. So what does that mean? It means that the system is now live, and you can now send electronic invoices through the PEPL network, which is live since today. The pilot phase is really only relevant for 2 categories of business. So the Ministry of Finance has invited a select working group of taxpayers to participate in the pilot phase. And obviously that is just to do general testing of the system, see if everything works correctly. But if you are already ready today with your e-invoicing solution, so you've gone through the necessary steps to go ahead and implement that, then you can actually participate now on a voluntary basis. And I would say businesses are actually encouraged to do so because now you're not at risk of incurring any penalties. So you're still way ahead of the mandatory deadline, which the first one is on the 1st of January. So if you actually are in a position to go ahead and send some e-invoices, then businesses should generally do so.
Okay, so if you're a chief financial officer and you're relying on manual or PDF-based invoicing, whatever, what are the first things you need to be doing now to avoid, there are monthly admin penalties, I believe, coming in 2027, but what do you need to do to prepare?
Right. So the penalties is actually an interesting point because it's relevant. It might have a huge financial impact on businesses. So the rollout is basically based on revenue. So it depends on whether you're above or below 50 million dirhams. If you're above that threshold, then you need to be live on the 1st of January. If you're below that threshold, then you look at the 1st of July of next year.
Right.
If you go beyond that date and you're not ready with your e-invoicing solution, then there's monthly penalties of 5,000 dirhams. So that's something to look at. If you're looking today and you hear about e-invoicing and the pilot phase for the first time, there's a few steps that you should go through. So first of all is check your revenue, which you have to look at your financial statements of last year. Right. If you're a new business, you'll work on projected revenue. If you're a new company, just incorporate, you don't have financial statements yet. So that's the first step. Based on that revenue, you'll then determine when is my mandatory go live. Am I looking at January or July next year? Then once you've done that, there's something that you need to do called transaction mapping, where you basically look at your business and you see what kind of transactions am I mostly involved in. Do I mainly have local customers? Do I have international customers? Because that will then map sort of the VAT treatment and the type of e-invoices that you're going to send out.
Right.
There's also a gap analysis that you have to do where you basically, you look at your customer data, your vendor data. Do I have all the right information about my clients and vendors? That relates to things like tax registration numbers, address details. If you don't have those fields ready to go, then that could potentially lead to invoices being rejected further down the line.
Okay. All right then.
I think another step that's very important is the selection of a service provider. So the way the network works is you need someone to link your accounting system to the PEPL network, which is kind of the technical standard on which you exchange your e-invoice. And that is basically a service provider. So there's a number of accredited service providers that are already listed on the website of the Ministry of Finance.
These are the ASPs, aren't they?
The ASPs, yeah, exactly.
ASPs,
yeah. And so they provide a technical solution to basically take the data from your accounting system, turn that into the right technical standard to then send your e-invoice across the network base.
And that's not necessarily a software plugin, is it? It could be, I guess.
It could be, yeah. So there's different solutions. There are certain e-invoicing solutions that fully integrate with your accounting or ERP system. So there's some implementation work, and that's also why e-invoicing is not just a tax work stream. It's an IT project, it's a finance project, legal. So it's something that hits the entire organization, basically. But there are also solution providers where you essentially so they host a web portal, and then you basically upload your invoice that comes out of your accounting system, or you manually key in the details, and then that platform will turn it into an e-invoice. So there's different solutions which are fit for purpose, but you can imagine, Elliot, if you have a very high volume of invoices, then this platform is not the relevant solution for you.
No, so consider carefully, I guess. One thing I wanted to ask you, I've read a little bit about this, but if you can give me the details on this. What makes the UAE's, it's a 5-corner e-invoicing model, right? Yeah. How is that different from systems adopted elsewhere?
Correct. So there's a few different systems. So for example, in Saudi, you have what we call a centralized clearing platform. So Saudi, they implemented e-invoicing in 2021 already. So they're a little bit ahead of the game in that sense. But it's a completely different model from what the UAE has implemented.
Right.
Then you have other jurisdictions in Europe that go for a 4-corner PEPL model. So what does that entail? 4 corners, it essentially refers to the number of actors that you have in your e-invoicing solution. So you have the supplier, the person making a supply or a sale.
Right.
Then you have the supplier's service provider, the customer service provider, and the customer itself. Okay. So those are your 4 corners. And that's one way of transmitting your invoice from a supplier to a customer. What the UAE has done is they've implemented a 5-corner PEPL model. So the 5th corner is actually the Federal Tax Authority.
Right.
And where it differs from the model in Saudi Arabia is that it's decentralized, which means that the tax authority is not at the center of the e-invoicing model, but they sort of sit on the side. And when you route your e-invoices to your customer through your service providers, at one point, the tax authority receives tax data. So they are not there to sort of validate your invoice, which is the case in Saudi Arabia. So in Saudi Arabia, I will send my invoice. The tax authority needs to validate and approve it before it reaches my customer. What's different in the decentralized model is that your invoice reaches your customer anyway, but along the way, the tax authority actually receives a certain set of data from that invoice.
Okay, so why did the UAE choose a decentralized approach? Is that about data protection?
It's one of the reasons. So there's basically 2 reasons that I can see from a technical perspective.
Right.
One of them is that it makes your system more robust because there's no single point of failure. So if, for example, in a centralized model, the system is down, there's no way of sending your invoice to your customer because you just cannot hit the validation stage. Your customer will not receive your invoice.
Okay.
In the UAE, if there's anything wrong in terms of the transmission of the data to the Federal Tax Authority, your customer is still receiving your invoice. So from a technical perspective, it's more robust. And then from a sort of data security perspective, in a decentralized model, you don't have tax authority sitting on basically all commercial tax invoices in one single country, right? Because again, that is a point of failure.
Yeah.
But here it's basically the tax authority receives a certain data set, which is quite extensive, but it's not actually sitting on a copy of all commercial invoice across the country, basically. And of course, that data that goes to the Federal Tax Authority, it's encrypted as well.
Okay, understood. So what are the biggest misconceptions businesses have about the new framework? Because, we fear change, don't we? We have to
all averse to
upgrade and keep, and particularly when there are tax implications, financial implications. What do people not get that they need to be getting?
Yeah. Some of the common misconceptions that I've seen is that businesses think that if they're not registered for VAT, that they're not required to implement e-invoicing.
Right.
But it's actually, it applies to all businesses in the UAE. So whether you're registered for VAT or not, you actually have to go ahead and make these changes. And that's quite different from, for example, a country like Oman, which only focuses on registered taxpayers. So there's a large part of businesses that stay out of that e-invoicing net. A second misconception that I sometimes see is that businesses think that it's just about appointing this service provider and that's basically the end of the whole story. But the reality is there's quite a bit of implementation work that has to predate onboarding and appointing an ASP. And that relates to, for example, reviewing your master data. Because if your financial data is not accurate and you have huge gaps, for example, your sales team, when they onboard customers, half of your data is not in your ERP system, well, that's going to lead to invoices being rejected further down the line. So it's not really about just appointing an ASP, making sure that your technical solution is right. It's really about more transformative change to your organization, how you manage your financial data.
So there's an upgrade to standards here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
sorry, go on.
So I was going to say it has a huge impact in terms of the FTA now having real-time access to your data as well.
Right.
So that plays into how they are going to conduct audits and where they can, potentially see triggers for tax audits. So that's something that taxpayers should also be aware of. That's sort of a secondary impact of e-invoicing.
Okay, so those are the misconceptions. What about potentially compliance mistakes that companies might risk? What are we looking at there in terms of this implementation period?
Yeah, so I think common issues that I see is waiting too long appointing an ASP.
Leaving it till the last minute.
In June, the Ministry of Finance actually postponed the deadline for appointing an ASP for large businesses. So initially they were supposed to do that by the end of July. Now that deadline has been postponed until the end of October. Right. And it is to give business a bit more time. But I think it also had to do with sort of the market not being fully saturated yet from an ASP perspective. So what the UAE has actually done is they allowed what they call white labeling. So if you're a UAE service provider, you can actually use an international solution that has been used in other PEPL jurisdiction and then offer that here locally. And that will sort of open the market a little bit more in terms of pricing, but also in terms of technical solutions for taxpayers. So there's really a solution for every business, and that's really the goal.
Okay. How challenging do you think implementation of this is going to be for SMEs compared to larger organizations? Because it is another box that you need to tick.
100%. And I think for larger businesses, well, they deal with complexity, high volume, different types of transactions. At the same time, they also have the resources to deal with an implementation project like this. They've dealt with this in other jurisdictions before. And if you're an SME, this is all coming at you rather fast, I would say. And I would also say for SMEs, they don't necessarily have dedicated tax IT teams. So it's sometimes the business owner who needs to take charge there. In terms of complexity, I would say it comes down to your transaction profile. Do you mostly have local supplies? Do you also do business internationally? That all plays into the complexity. It also depends a bit of what is the level of your current accounting, right? Are you still sending manual invoices? Is your bookkeeping mostly done in Excel? Do you use basic accounting software? So for those businesses, that transformation will be a little bit more impactful. Equally, if you're an SME and you have sort of one of the more well-known accounting packages like Xero, Zoho, Wafek, those accounting packages, they will come up with a solution that will allow you to almost seamlessly send these e-invoices. So there, the impact can be rather minimal. So it really depends on complexity, I would say, at the end of the day.
Okay. If you're a business and you haven't started preparing, what should be at the top of the... I mean, you need a to-do list, right?
Yeah.
What should be the big thing at the top?
Yeah, so there's a few steps that you want to go through. First of all, you need to know when you need to go live.
Right.
So I think for most businesses, they're looking at 1st of July. It's just the larger ones, they're aware of that this is coming and they're already taking steps to implement.
So once you've done that, you need to go through a bit of homework in terms of your transaction mapping, gap analysis, so checking whether your data is actually ready. Then at one point, you need to look at onboarding a service provider. And there's different criteria that you need to take into account there. Pricing is one of them, but I would say it's not the determinative factor. You need to look at which solution is actually a good fit for your ERP system in terms of system implementation. Do you have a service provider who has a local support team in case something goes wrong, or do those support people sit outside? Are there any additional value adds that service provider can provide? Like some service providers, they have dashboards, they have certain data analytics, which are all useful, but they're more, in addition to sort of the core service that they provide. Okay. And then once you've onboarded that ASP, it's really about implementation, testing, which is something that businesses sometimes forget before you go live. Yeah. And then if you can, before your mandatory go live, make use of the voluntary stage, because that's really the ultimate test, and you're not at risk yet of incurring any penalties. So let's say you need to implement by July next year. You have essentially a whole year now where you can do your implementation and then hopefully go live before the 1st of July to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Okay. So compliance is obviously the main driver of this. But is there an upside as well? Because I guess there are advantages from your business's point of view if you adopt this earlier rather than later.
Yeah, there are certain efficiencies that will benefit businesses that do this exercise well. There's sort of, in an ideal world, your entire accounts receivable and accounts payable process, they go automatically. Theoretically, you'll get paid sooner because the invoice just lands in your customer's accounting system. Right. There's no more invoices getting lost or not, being processed by the finance team. Then there's also the point that at the end of the month, your month end or your year end close will just go much faster because all the data is already in the system, right? We don't need to go ahead and book all our invoices because they automatically come in our accounting system. VAT returns should go smoother because you have all your data ready to go. And then you're essentially audit ready for the same reason because you have all your data already. So in case you get a tax audit, all the information should be there. The tax authority already has a large part of that information, whereas now, if you get an audit assessment, a big part of the exercise is actually collecting and collating all that information.
It's a mad scramble, isn't it, for lots of people? Okay, no, I can see the benefits there. And I suppose, is this true? Could a company or companies use this to, it's a digital transition, but could they use this to streamline cash flow, or maybe does it offer better visibility in their own kind of supply chain data? Is that a potential benefit as well?
So there's definitely benefits on the reporting front because you have all your data in real time. So if you're management, you have better access to data and more accurate, more up-to-date data. Right. In terms of getting paid faster, I think there's definitely, from an accounts receivable perspective, you should get paid faster, but there's obviously this sort of overarching issue in sort of the wider region and getting paid on time, and that's a separate issue which doesn't come on e-invoicing, but technically your invoice will reach your customers sooner. Whether you then effectively get paid faster, that's a different matter altogether.
It's not necessarily the case you can change regional mindsets, I suppose, when it comes to payment, but you can at least implement the system. Final question for you, and I'm kind of going back to the SME, the smaller organisation thing here, the startups, the lone founders, if you like. It's going to feel for lots of people like a bit of a bureaucratic headache, a hurdle to be overcome, right? I guess in lots of ways. Do you think the framework favours the big players? Or if you're a smaller, a leaner company, could you leverage this shift to get a jump on your competitors, your larger competitors, just because it's going to make you be more efficient?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said in terms of the comparison for larger organizations and SMEs.
There has to be, doesn't it?
Because those larger organizations, as I said, they deal with lots of complexity. There's a higher cost of implementation. Yeah. As you can imagine, they have custom ERP systems, so the implementation cost is fairly high. And as an SME, you can sort of reach the same level of implementation quite easily with more elegant or sort of less invasive solutions, if you will. So you can send the invoices from your accounting system. And so implementation should be more straightforward for those SMEs.
Okay. Well, it's in position from today, July the 1st, 2026. Niels van Hassel is a partner, head of tax for the Middle East at Adelshaw Goddard, talking to us this morning. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much, Elliot.
Good to have you here. Stay up to date with all our news and interviews via mirabusiness.fm.
Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more. Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
The morning drive. Is hiring slowing for the summer, or are employers actively recruiting? Here to talk hiring trends, what job seekers should do next, and to take a look at what's really happening in the job market is Zachary Bennett. He's a talent partner at Professional Pyramid. Zach, good morning.
Thank you for having me back. Good morning.
You're very welcome. You've been here a few times now. So a dab hand, I suppose. Every year we hear a variation on this theme. It's summer. The market slows down. Wait until September, right? So if we can today, what I want to do is try and balance the seasonal narrative, if you like, with the reality of where we are in the economic landscape. So is the job market really slowing down in the summer?
So I'll try not to answer this with the entire interview, right? Because of course I could dive into this in so much depth.
I bet you could.
I will kind of summarize this. Hiring does typically see some sort of pullback in the summer.
Yes.
It's not necessarily because organizations stop hiring. Some of them may pause hiring during this period, but especially large organizations, there are backfills, there are people leaving, there are dynamic things happening. Organizations are always hiring. Will companies fill all of their critical hires into Q3? Probably not. However, to say that hiring slows down to the point where it becomes very difficult to land a job isn't accurate. There is a pullback, but it's not to the point where this is now detrimental or making it really difficult for you to secure a role. With that said, this year, we are seeing much less of a drawback, which is extremely positive.
Okay, so let's get past the headlines and get some real kind of actionable job hunting advice. Companies are still actively hiring right now.
Yes, unbelievably. So we just come off the back of our busiest month. June is typically not a slow month, but it isn't a hectic month. It isn't a very busy month. This is typically when I say organizations do start winding back a bit. People start going on holiday. Kids are coming out of school. Things are slowing down a little bit due to external factors. We are not seeing that right now.
Okay, so it is a good time to apply now.
It is a very good time. It's always a good time. It's a good time if you make it a good time. But now is, if we're talking about market conditions, because even when the market's terrible, you can still land a job. Market conditions now are ripe for you to apply.
Okay, why do you say that? What makes you say market conditions?
So if we're strictly looking at, so there's two elements to it. There's data and anecdotal. So looking at data from our internal data, we're seeing more companies reaching out, increases in jobs. Compared to this time last year, we're seeing a drastic increase. I don't have the exact percentages to mind, but there are drastic increases from last year. So the hiring activity now is more than what it was last year before anything occurred.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you that. That was a question I kind of in my head I had planned. So if you're a person like me and you kind of missed a head in sand, is it's a good time to apply now? It's not kind of I'll wait till after the summer.
No, if
don't
you
think that way.
No, if you wait till after the summer,
so you're too late.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that you're too late. It's that there are opportunities on the table for you right now. If you want to land a job now, land one now. There's so much opportunity on the table. There are so many transformations, so many changes, so many shifts that have occurred. When these things happen, they open opportunity. It's not like, AI has taken over everything. There are no more jobs anymore. That's not the case, right? Even when companies are going heavy on tech and whatnot, it just creates more opportunity. It's just that the opportunity is slightly different.
Okay, so which sectors are seeing the strongest demand at the moment?
So that's not something I can really provide too much insight on. And the reason I say that is because we see huge demand in certain sectors, but for positions that aren't necessarily native to that sector. So for example, there could be a supply chain company or logistics company, take DP World, for example, that's looking for a sales director or an IT director. And that can kind of skew the vision a little bit, because do we say that that's a tech job, or do we say that that's a procurement or a logistics job? It can kind of skew the bands a little bit. So, but yeah, there's huge demand across the board, whether or not it's finance, whether or not it's tech, whether it's supply chain, whatever it might be. There's huge demand across the board.
Okay, so without being too specific, if the hiring outlook for for tech and healthcare, those are the two in my mind that would be particularly strong at the moment. Sectors like logistics have seen a lot more volatility, obviously. Recent regional events have been the cause of that. But for somebody whose skill set is in a, let's say, a pressured sector, what's the best strategy so that you're front of mind, you're relevant at the moment?
So for people who are more junior, I believe I touched on this last time I was here, as a matter of fact. For people who are more junior, this becomes more and more tricky. Right. The more senior you are in your career, the more breadth your role typically has, the more adaptable you become, the more you understand the commercials, the more you understand the impact of your position. Nonetheless, what any individual who's looking for a role right now should do, especially if they're in a relatively volatile space, like shipping and stuff like this, or perhaps aviation or something to this tune, they should be positioning themselves as adaptable. They should be understanding where the market's going in their exact space, not as a whole, but in their exact space, how their job might be changing, and they should be shifting and positioning themselves more towards that.
Okay, so really doing your research even more than ever.
More than ever. Research is key. Before you start putting feelers out, before you start applying, before you start, sending CVs out, reaching out to people, you need to have the knowledge to understand exactly what these people are looking for, because now more than ever, it's outreach that's going to really tick the box for them as well.
Okay, and if your outreach is done well, you are confident, and to be confident, you need to know your stuff.
You need to know what you're doing.
Right. Okay. There's been a shift, I think, towards candidates who have maybe technical depth with operational coordination. It seems to me that's the case, and that's something that we keep hearing. And I wonder if you think that. But does that mean that kind of generalist talent has lost value? Would you say? I know that's kind of a vague question, but that's. It's anecdotal evidence, but that's what we've seen.
So people who really tuck into a niche, people who really double down on their specialism, are always safer for as long as their space is safer. For as long as what they do is secure, they are secure. If they're involved in a particular technology and that becomes out of date and they're fully leveraged on that, now they have some pivoting to do and some repositioning to do. Right. Someone who's more generalist, they are perhaps worse positioned as of right now, but they can quite easily start offshooting into areas that they're familiar with and maybe just doubling down on a few of these and positioning themselves for these opportunities. So whilst, maybe on the face of it, we could say, they're at a slight disadvantage, they can quite easily pivot. So it shouldn't be too drastic. Okay, so here's a question for you, and this is something I guess that you come up against regularly. Most of the larger employers are using, and HR organizations are using AI-based screening tools. So what do you need to do as a job seeker to not be rejected by those application tracking systems, the ATS systems? So AI is taking a much larger role now. Yeah. As of recent months, it's taking a larger role. So previously it was, let's say 2 years ago, it was predominantly just the ATS. Yeah. But now we have AI responding to outreach messages. We have AI conducting the first rounds of interviews. So AI is becoming more and more embedded. How does AI do the first round of interviews? Badly. Really? Yeah. So the reason it's so heavily used over here, like Emirates uses it, for example, in many of their interview rounds, is because these organizations have so many people applying that they can afford to lose 90% of the great people because they only need one or two for the position, right? So they can afford... You can see that. They can afford to disregard people. Yeah, okay. It's fine for the organization. It's terrible for the person looking for a job. The best way, if I could just give you one simple piece of advice here and now to push past this, in a summarized form, is do not use AI to try and combat AI. You're essentially fighting fire with fire. Okay. The AI that's being used, one of the first things it will look out for is this person utilizing AI? Because they're using AI, they're fine with it, but they're not fine with people trying to utilize AI to push past. So you'll find a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go onto ChatGPT or something and say, build me a ATS compliant CV. But there are 20 odd systems used in the region. What is AI compliant? Because there are so many different systems, and it's just going to give them something back and they can't verify it. So utilizing AI is essentially you shooting yourself in the foot without realizing.
See, I was looking at my CV, I guess a couple of weeks ago, and my last CV update was it was a year and a half ago, for example. I was like, I suppose I better do this. And I look at LinkedIn quite a lot. We post a lot on LinkedIn. I was looking at somebody's profile, and I'm reading the profile thinking, that just looks fantastic. And I read mine and I thought, that does not look fantastic. There may have been a few expletives in there.
Right.
Let's be honest. So I thought, well, I need to upgrade it. And then I looked at this person's CV again, and I realised it just been AI'd to look as great as possible.
Yep.
And I started to see some inconsistencies, and I kind of felt like, I don't really believe that anymore. So I thought, no, I'm going to leave it. I'll just update my CV, because I just kind of hand wrote it and then typed it in and it did
Which
that.
is exactly what you should do.
Is that what you should be doing?
That is exactly what you should do,
You make
because
me
it's
feel
going
so much better.
It's going to sound like you. It's going to sound
Some would argue that's not a great thing.
right. But
there
believe it
you
or
are.
not, if you were reading CVs and you were, looking for someone to come and support you guys over here, you wouldn't want another robotic CV that looks like the other 5 on your desk. The one that looks like a human being is the one that you're going to want to speak to.
And does that actually make a difference?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Really?
So we just hired a marketing director. He's actually flying in today. He'll be landing in Dubai at 3 p.m. today. So I received 4,000 applications for this position. Put out a video on Instagram, 600,000 views, thousands and thousands of messages. Every single one of them that was AI, which is about 95%, I didn't review, nor did I respond to even say thank you, because I'm not speaking to a human being, I'm speaking to a robot. It might sound harsh, but when you're receiving this many applicants, you want to speak to human beings. If we were hiring ChatGPT, we'd just build an agent or something, right? We wouldn't do this. So the AI element is the fast track way to getting yourself thrown in the bin.
That's interesting. Okay. We hear a lot from anybody in HR or recruitment, anybody that comes in here. It's always, I can't tell you how many responses I get for roles, how many are AI'd, and also how many people don't bother to read the criteria.
Yeah, so
well.
There's an ad that I keep seeing on Instagram going out now, right? And it's this thing, I don't know why, but it's targeting me relentlessly. And it essentially applies for jobs on your behalf. So you just put your CV in and it'll apply for 2,000 jobs.
I've seen that.
It's going nowhere. It's not going to go anywhere, right? If this worked, then the whole recruitment game would be just out of business and everyone would rely on this. And this is not what people want. This is not what hiring teams are looking for. They're looking for human beings.
Okay.
Even AI companies are looking for human beings because a human needs to run and operate these systems.
I genuinely do feel a lot better now. Thanks for coming.
You're very welcome.
I've got loads more questions for you, though. Would you say, more broadly, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, would you say recruitment activities picked up compared with this time last year?
Yeah.
How would you compare it?
Yeah, so I can speak for ourselves, and I can speak for a few founders and whatnot that I've been speaking to as well. We have seen, and we've just come off the back of our busiest month on several metrics. The amount of roles we've been seeing coming in is unbelievable. The amount of new companies that have been reaching out to us has been absolutely just unmanageable. The amount of people looking for jobs has been unmanageable. And we're also seeing a few other recruitment founders saying similar things. But with that said, there are also some recruitment companies that are struggling. There are also some recruitment companies that are struggling, but I don't think that's necessarily down to time of year. I think that's perhaps down to their positioning and adaptability with the market, perhaps.
And overemphasis on a particular sector, perhaps?
Maybe,
or being known
yeah.
for
Like
that,
if they're specialists in a specific sector that's struggling,
okay.
of course, they're naturally going to struggle more.
Okay. I mean, the word from employers seems to be that they're hiring fewer people, but they're also expecting quite a lot more at the moment. That seems to be something. How does this kind of selective mindset change the way a job seeker should approach their application compared to last year?
So it goes in line with typical summer practice, right? It does stay in the exact same lane as what I would typically advise in summer practice. And summer practice is to be more intentional. Summer practice is to be more targeted, more specific, a lesser focus on volume, a higher focus on quantity. A lesser focus on quantity, a higher focus on quality.
Okay.
As we were discussing before, the research points, putting more time into really looking at which organizations you're targeting, why you're targeting them, which exact value and positions that you can kind of slot into within these organizations. That's where they should be spending more of their time, as opposed to focusing on a volume approach.
Okay. We talked a little bit about the human side of things, which is, I find, kind of encouraging. But what are employers looking for most in candidates at the moment? What do people say to you? What comes up regularly? This is the kind of person we're after.
So,
is there anything?
Yes,
really?
Absolutely.
What is it?
There's one thing that has historically, and this isn't specific to now, this is one trait that over the years I've been working in this space has been consistently said, and that is competency. I'm not talking about technical competency.
Right.
I'm talking about if something goes wrong, how do they react? If they have to do something new that they've never done before, how can they cope with that? How adaptable are they? How much initiative are they able to actually put out? And I'm not talking about the understanding of a specific technology or a specific platform or a program or something like that. I'm talking about competency. When they sit down in front of you, does the interviewer look into their eyes and think, this person is switched on? How emotionally intelligent are they? How do they interact with the interviewer? When they interview, are they speaking for 25 minutes on their introduction, or are they engaging the interviewer and turning it into more of a conversation? It's competency, emotional intelligence. These are the types of things above technical ability that hiring teams are looking for. They will hire someone who's competent mentally, intellectually, over someone who is technically amazing.
Okay,
Every
and
time.
that's you look. These are people looking for people who can deal with roles, can really get to grips with, because it's not a one size fits all thing anymore, is it? You're not there to just do the one thing. Most people, there's
Things change.
multitasking. Yeah,
Things changed.
Yeah.
As we saw recently, things have changed so much with organizations, and the people who can change with the organizations are the ones who stay, and they're the ones who progress. The ones who cannot change are the ones who unfortunately will get cut and have to find a new role. It is the adaptability, the commercial, the emotional intellect. These are the things that companies are looking for beyond everything, because technical skills are teachable. You can put someone on a course, you can train someone how to use all of these systems we've got here in front of us. But if someone doesn't have that thing about them...
I'm not using that system. That's Faraj's job. There's far too many buttons for me.
But if someone doesn't have the sort of ability to go out, that's when they will struggle. So I think it's about positioning yourselves and as someone who is adaptable, someone who has done their research and is competent, portrays themselves really well during interviews.
Positive attitude as well.
Positive attitude is absolutely that. Absolutely that.
That's interesting. What mistakes are costing job seekers interviews? What feedback have you had about unsuccessful interviews?
Are we talking people who have gotten to interview? And people who are actively interviewing in an interview, what's caused them to lose it? If we're talking about that, what I mentioned just before, like waffling. So we do a lot of interview preps. We prepare people for when they're interviewing with companies they're working with and whatnot. Right. And the first thing I say to them is, whatever you do, do not waffle.
Right.
Because when someone speaks for too long, the listener gets bored. And when someone gets bored, they are disengaged. Chances of you getting off is low.
Is waffling a very kind of Englishy phrase?
It is.
It kind of is. Waffling is just kind of rambling conversation. For anybody that is like, what the hell is waffling? Waffling is you eat waffles. But that's the thing. And generally waffling is nervous.
It is. It's
very
nerves.
often.
It's nerves, and that's why we prepare them. So we'll prep them for the worst possible interview to occur. That way, if it does occur, they're not waffling, because when you are, as I say, waffling and rambling on and talking too much, you can essentially dig a hole for yourself. Yeah. And you can start making mistakes. You can open up opportunities to be questioned on things that perhaps wouldn't have been an issue previously, and you can disengage the interviewer. And when an interviewer that's going to be working with you directly becomes disengaged, it now makes them think, perhaps I wouldn't want to work with this person, because they've got to spend a lot of time with you most of the time, right? They've got to spend a lot of time with you. They've got to train you. And if they're thinking, I wouldn't enjoy working with this person, they won't want to hire you. So technical ability is a baseline, but what's going to actually get you hired is making someone like you, making someone want to work with you, and actually making the person feel like, okay, this person's going to be an asset, and he's going to be someone, or she's going to be someone that's really useful for the team.
Okay. loads more questions. We got a little bit of time. Have you got a few more minutes?
Of course I do, yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it. Are salaries and hiring expectations, have they changed?
So,
because we've been through this has been a weird time, hasn't it? It's been
absolutely.
a very odd time.
So one thing, I'll talk about both ends of the table here. So from people looking for jobs and job seekers themselves, what I am seeing is that people have started lowering their expectations more, which is something I'm aggressively pushing back on. Lowering your expectations, irrespective of what's going on, is putting you in a race to the bottom. And if you enter a race to the bottom, that's not going to help you land a job faster. It's just going to help you land bad interviews faster.
Okay.
And accepting a salary that's below market rate not only is going to harm you financially, because everyone's working for money, right? No one's going into work just for the fun of it. Everyone's working to provide for their families, provide for themselves, give themselves a good career, and so on and so forth. Not only will it give you a worse quality of life now, but you will struggle to get back to that point because you've taken a step back in your career. So that's what I'm seeing on the candidate side, and I'm pushing back on that aggressively. Do not lower your salary expectations. I don't care if you've been out of work 6 months, you're doing something wrong. That's why you're not landing a job. It's not because of your salary. The other end of the spectrum is employers. I'm actually seeing something popping up in the GCC that I've not been seeing, I've not seen for a while in this part of the world, is sign-on bonuses are becoming a bit of a thing. So when companies are hiring, not only are they offering the salary, the package, and the health and whatnot, all of that business schooling for senior individuals, but they're also willing to offer signing bonuses if they're negotiated.
Why is that? Why has that changed?
I don't know exactly why it's occurring, but it's something we're seeing more frequently now. And I think it's because organizations are at a position where they've laid off like loads of people. People have been laid off during this conflict. And they're at a point now, some of them, where they need to hire urgently. So if they don't want to give someone a higher salary, they can give them a sign-on bonus, or they can give them additional benefits, which is more like palatable to the company than increasing the salary on offer. So it's often easier to negotiate up on a signing bonus as opposed to salary.
Okay, and it cements the role, and going forward, you can start to plan. I can see that.
Like it could be like, I don't know, 50% of the first month's salary, 100% of the first month's salary. It could vary. It could be even, okay, you're going to get a bonus once you pass probation. These things are, after 6 months probation, you're going to get 30K or something like that. This is something we're seeing more frequently now as well.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about compensation a little bit, and compensation packages right now. It seems as though, and I've read this, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but that compensation is being negotiated on total value rather than just base salary. Okay. So what should candidates be asking for beyond, monthly paycheck to make sure that they're future-proofing them?
So they need to look at the whole package, 100%. They need to look at the entire offer. And they need to base this dependent on their seniority as well. Someone who's 2 years into their career, their benefits are going to be minimal. And their ability to negotiate additional benefits will be low. However, if someone's at a manager grade, senior manager grade, director grade, some benefits will be cemented in company policy, others will not, i.e. signing bonuses are often not. Medical insurance tier often is. Schooling allowance is something that people can typically try and negotiate on. Flights for additional dependents, things like this are stuff that you could typically negotiate on. Medical insurance, not so much. One thing on the back of that I would like to say is if you receive an offer now, today, tomorrow, in the future, make sure you read that offer letter very carefully. We recently had someone who was a director who was promised the world and back, and he actually looked at his contract, or we looked at his contract, and found the medical insurance was essentially bare bones, keep you alive. So he would have had to now then spend 15, 20K or whatever it will cost him on medical insurance that he wouldn't have factored in previously. So stuff like this, you want to make sure you're looking at that with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay, and I guess insurance packages have been hit by, regional tensions as well. It's a sector that's been hit. Let me ask you this. With Emiratization reaching senior layers, more senior layers this year, right? Competition clearly is up, right? So how should non-Emirati candidates frame their own kind of value proposition so that they can stand out in a market that's increasingly focused on national development targets?
So if I'm being completely honest with you here, Emiratization has historically played a very minor role in hiring. And in terms of actual people applying and this being an interfering roadblock is minimal. We do sometimes find people saying, look, I've lost out to someone who's Emirati and they secured the job because they Emiratized the role and stuff like this. But it is such a minute and such a small portion of roles that are actually Emiratized that it's not something that I would even advise planning to try and combat. Simply try and position yourself in the most effective way, run the most effective search possible, show as much value, solve as many solutions as you possibly can, and position yourself as someone worth speaking to. And the Emiratization, it really shouldn't be something that you're facing too much of a challenge with.
Okay, so if the big portals, right, are flooded with applicants and you've faced that problem, where should a mid to senior level professional be looking now to find roles that, because we all know there are roles that just are not advertised to most of us. So where do you look to find them?
So I'm going to plug us in here. So professionalpyramid.com, we list all of our verified.
That was a good plug.
It was like it was set up there, wasn't it? But
I enjoyed
a paid
that
segment. But no, we list all of our verified positions there. So we have thousands of roles going up on a monthly basis. Every single one of them is verified to be actually hiring by us.
Okay.
So these typically do convert quite well. Similarly, if you're looking for mid to senior, so manager grade and up, let's say, getting headhunted on LinkedIn, i.e. them coming to you, is often even better than our portal. So getting headhunted is a massive thing you should be focusing on as well.
Okay. If you're not seeing the results you want and you're going into summer and thinking, oh, it's a low time, what should you do to make sure you're at the front of the line in Q3, but certainly at the front of the line by Q4, by the end of the summer?
So this comes back to a mistake that I see so many people making, and that's that they don't track their search. They essentially apply on an ad hoc basis. They just go online, have a morning coffee, send out a few applications and see what happens. They don't do anything for a few more days, and then they rinse and repeat. You should be tracking absolutely everything. I've got a free tracker. If anyone wants it, they are more than welcome to message me on any platform. I can send it to them entirely free. But you should be tracking every single application that you send. You should be logging everything, logging your action, logging all of this, because then you have a data sheet showing you everything that's been done and every position where you've gone wrong. It could be the case where you've gotten to 6 first-round interviews and you've messed them all up. That's obviously going to mean that you're doing something wrong in the first-round interview.
Yeah, okay.
You get to finals and you cut off there. Something's wrong with the finals. You're sending out messages, but you're not getting any responses. Something's wrong with your outreach. You're getting automatically rejected when you apply. Something might be wrong with your CV. It essentially gives you a data point to go off, as opposed to you picking at the sky and hoping that you can kind of figure out what's going wrong.
So applying for a job is a job, isn't
Of course.
it? So you should have a spreadsheet.
If you want to land one, absolutely. If you're
Yeah.
treating this as just a lot of people, a big mistake that I see people making is that they feel like their value speaks for itself. And I've got 20 years of experience. I've been a CEO of this company. It doesn't, because people can't see you.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And if you're getting automatically rejected when you apply, it doesn't matter what experience you have. It's about people seeing you. It's about you being visible. It's about you getting in front of the right people. Yeah, you might ace an interview when you get there, but you need to treat this as a job. And people need to take a step back, be quite humble with it, and approach the search as if you are running a job, and that will lead to the best results.
Okay, so summer is going to be quieter. That's fair to say, but it's not going to be stagnant, is it?
It definitely won't be stagnant.
No.
It definitely won't be stagnant. It never is. It never is.
Okay, so focus on your niche, sharpen your digital skills.
Yeah, absolutely. That's never going to hurt you. It's never going to hurt you. The more you're keeping up with the times, then absolutely.
Okay, it's good advice. I appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you, Zach. I appreciate it. Zachary Beckett is talent partner at Professional Pyramid. We've learned that much.
Thank you so much.
Brilliantly
I appreciate
plugged.
it.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Likewise. Thank you so much, guys.
Clips from today's discussion are going to be on Instagram. The full interview will be posted as well to our Mira Business FM LinkedIn page.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business.